Okay, so my name is De'von Witherspoon, of course, a senior here at the College of Charleston in Political Science Department, and which may differ from what you see in your programs. My bachelor's essay is entitled Homosexuality in Africa's Media, The Struggles of Living Your Truth in East Africa. So I basically changed my topic because for gender identity conversion therapy, it's not as widely known and discussed just because it's such a hush-hush type of subject that no one really wants to talk about because of the harsh techniques that go into it and how they violate so much on human rights, and basically it's not a widely practiced thing. There are a few medical clinics within East Africa that actually practice conversion therapy, and they try to cover those up as best as possible so that no one actually knows that these terrible, terrible things are happening to people. And I also changed to homosexuality in the media just because homosexuality in many African countries is considered a criminal act where you can be in prison for anywhere between 10 to life. So basically, it's such a heavily weighted thing that we feel is a norm here in America that we can go anywhere and be who we are, but whereas in Africa, you can't really do that because they immediately see you as an outcast or not really a part of the African tradition. And another point is that LGBTQ plus individuals live in fear of being persecuted and being forced to undergo conversion therapy, that they are basically forced into hiding or must flee the country or their region that they have known for all their lives in order to actually live and be safe. And then my third point is the media has a major influence on shaping the discourse of homosexuality. As we can see here in the US and in other places, whatever the media puts out is basically what is the public belief. That's what we know to be true, even though it may not always be true. So my focus regions for my bachelor's essay have been Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. I mainly chose these three just because they're kind of in the core of East Africa, and they're all so closely related to each other, not just by proximity, but also like the beliefs that they share. And so Uganda, as you can see, has a more restrictive approach towards homosexuality, and that's what I mainly wanted to focus on and see how their ideals will impact their neighboring countries. As for Kenya, they're more progressive towards homosexuality. They still have very strict laws where you can be imprisoned or you could be fined or basically exiled or forced to undergo different treatments, as I like to say, which is conversion therapy. But they're still becoming more open as time progresses, whereas Tanzania is more closely similar to Uganda, whereas they don't really discuss homosexuality at all because it's so taboo that it's something that they will never even publicly express. And if you are homosexual in Tanzania, you basically have to have a cover over yourself when you're out in public. You can't really be who you are. You can't express what you like and stuff like that because immediately you're a target and it all blows up. So for the literature aspect on my bachelor's essay, I focused on the history, the religion and political influence, and the media importance. So for history, before colonization, it was known that African traditions widely practiced homosexuality. They had male partners, women had female partners. There was even once a king in Uganda who was known for being a homosexual and had many constituents or patrons that he would like to call them that worked on his team, and they were all his lovers. So after colonization, it changed because the British came in and colonized Uganda and Kenya, whereas the Germans colonized Tanzania. And so with the European influence, Africa basically took on their ideology. They took on their beliefs, and how they acted, Africa decided, okay, we want to act like them. We want to be like them as well. And so this means taking on their religion, their political standpoint, their belief system, their customs and traditions. Basically, they just became Europeanized, just completely taking away all of the African traditions. And so this leads into the religion, whereas religion and the state, of course, church and the state, as we all know, have a big hand-in-hand with each other. And the religion heavily impacts the political atmosphere in Africa, especially in these three countries. The belief system and their religion that they hold basically run the state. So whoever the politicians are running for office, they heavily rely on religion because they know that's where their biggest supporters will come from. So they obviously target stuff like homosexuality, like, oh, let's get it out, let's stamp this out of our country, we don't need this here, because they know that their biggest supporters will be against it. And then with the media, of course, they're constantly putting into the media that homosexuality is bad, homosexuals are targeting children, they're coming after your homes and things like that. And so as you can see in the pictures here, where it says like Obama back off, this is when the US decided to step into Uganda and try to help and build up their human rights towards homosexuals. And basically they were pushing to get Obama out of their country. They hated everything that he said, every policy he tried to push for them, they denied it and just went against it. And so it was a big thing in the media because everyone felt like they weren't trying to progress at all and that there was no movement. So my research question here is, what can media representations in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania tell us about LGBTQ plus individuals being able to live their truths? And so in order to answer this question, I conducted a content analysis where I used the coding technique, where I took 5 different themes, as you can see here, and basically went through all of my sources and found which source relates to what theme and how will they lead me to my question. So through religion, of course, as I have said previously, it is a big concept in Africa and it's something that is widely practiced. So basically looking through the religious side of everything, it's how does this impact to me to get to the question, to answer the question. In the religion, it shows what drives the people. It is what motivates them to do what they do. And that leads into the conversion therapy, where they would practice conversion therapy in order to basically expel this sin or this demon that they call homosexuality and basically just get it out of their country. And then it led to the anti-LGBTQ plus sentiment and, of course, human rights and politics. Those all go hand in hand, and it shows that within these countries, it is hard for people to be able to express themselves and just live because all of these different aspects are constantly attacking them and tearing them down. And my findings, I found out that the media output, of course, equals public belief. So whatever the media says is true, that's what the public tends to believe, and they honestly just go off of that. It can honestly be false, but the public will think, okay, because the media said this, this is what it actually is. And of course, phrasing and the use of imagery and shapes the public discourse. I have a picture earlier in the slide where it shows Uganda's newspaper where it said the top 100 homosexuals exposed. So, and in that same article, it outlined how people of this community were attacking children. They were converting children to be gay and things like that. So basically just giving negative connotations. And so that phrasing plays a huge part. And then I've also researched stories of mistreated LGBTQ plus individuals where I have had this one person said that he had to run from his family because they tried to force him into conversion therapy where they put him through shock treatments, almost like waterboarded him and things like that in order to make him change his sexuality. And so in conclusion, from my research and for future research, I have found that there's a lack of healthcare access to this community of people, and that's a huge problem because it infringes upon their human rights, of course, and that's why it's such a major thing and why I looked into it, because human rights is such a big thing in our world, and for everyone to have the same equal rights and to be themselves, we can't have that if they are lacking access to healthcare, access to basic things that we have. So that's a major thing that's being fought for, as a resistance. There is a group called SMUG, which stands for Sexual Minorities in Uganda, which is currently fighting for the equality of LGBTQ plus people. And they are trying to gain more healthcare access, more rights to be out in public, more rights for their creations like movies and everything to be published. For example, there's a movie in Kenya that was banned because it presented homosexual couples, and it was never displayed anywhere. It went to a film festival and was never displayed after that. And so it's called Rafiki, if you ever want to watch it. It's a great movie. But yeah, so the media is constantly influencing the public opinion and making sure that homosexuality is basically stamped out. That's it.